Okay, again, I want to thank you all for attending this evening. Thanks for coming out, fighting the cold weather. I just did see it was -1 when I pulled into the parking lot, so.
I think our one guest.
you
Injured,
made it.
injured?
I think he's made it to just about every meeting that I've had since in the last year and a half, so welcome. Patty, please call roll.
Don.
Here.
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 Here. At this time, are there any commissioners with any conflicts of interest?
I do not.
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 I would note that my name is spelled wrong on the agenda, though.
You're just telling us this now?
Well, I just see the agenda just now.
Holly.
FOX.
Oh, yes.
Just saying.
Hey, I think we'll have to fix that.
Yeah,
Well, at least I'm not Gary Swenson today.
okay.
Oh, that was it.
Mr. Chair, I believe we need to add an executive session pursuant to what did you need?
To discuss personnel issues.
Personnel issue.
Correct.
And with that, if there's any other changes, I'd make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of an
Second.
executive session for personnel.
Second.
I have a motion by Dan to approve the agenda with the addition of the personnel issue for executive session. I have a second by Wanda. Any discussion by our commission? Hearing none. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. At this time, it's time for public comment. Public comment is a time for persons to address this body on any subject. No action may be taken on a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which action will be taken. Each person has up to 3 minutes to speak. There shall be no personal attacks against the members of this body, county staff, individuals, or organizations. The chair has the authority to enforce this policy. Failure to adhere to these rules may result in forfeiture of the remaining speaking time. Are there any public comments? Seeing none, public comment is closed. I think we're about 5 minutes ahead of schedule, but I think we're our
It's not good.
county liability insurance.
It's not.
Lynn is here, so let's move forward.
Welcome.
Okay, so we had sent along, so we're going to talk about your property coverage first. So you guys got to enjoy your first property survey through the pool, and we got the results of that survey back, and Becky had sent along a spreadsheet. So basically what happens is when we do, especially on a new member, when they come in, we do that first property survey, and there's quite a few differences. So normally we have some concerns about maybe sometimes property is undervalued and stuff like that. But you guys are actually in a little bit of an opposite position. You have property, your current statement of values is actually higher than what we have minimum required. So you are not required to do anything right now. You certainly can move your property values down to the minimum required. What I would probably recommend is maybe doing something, if you're going to do anything, maybe not go all the way down to the minimum, but maybe something kind of halfway in between. And I'll tell you why. Before COVID, we had some really great construction costs. We didn't really realize how great they were until after COVID. And then all of a sudden we had this just gangbusters of price increases and stuff like that. So while we try to plan for that, with our inflation guard trending and stuff like that, there are things that we have realized historically that sometimes you just can't plan for, even when we're looking nationwide, like what's happening. But like if you recall, before we had the COVID pandemic, we had Hurricane Katrina, and there was quite some time where you couldn't get PVC piping. And so then costs were pretty aggressive there. So basically, when you look at your spreadsheet that you guys got to take a look at the property values and stuff like that. When you're considering what choices you want to make, if you want to come down to the minimum required, you absolutely can do that. What it does is then it reduces your blanket limit. It also will reduce your cost of property coverage. But again, because you're coming down in the amount of coverage you have, your costs will come down. You do not have to make changes on every building. There may be one, say the public safety center, where right now you have it scheduled for $26 million and we have a minimum required of about 20 million. Maybe you want to bring that one down. That's totally up to you. It saves about $9,700 on your most recent invoice. And so what we would do is we would make that a midterm change. You can pick and choose. Like I said, you can say, okay, maybe you don't want to reduce it all the way down to the 20, but maybe you want to take it to 23. So then you'd see maybe a $4,500 savings versus the 97. So that's something that you can take a look at. You do not have to take action on this. You do not have to make these choices immediately tonight. If you want to look at it and say, hey, can you give us a quote? What would it look like if we only go to here? Or we move this, we can do some different massaging things. Or you can just totally bring them all down to the minimum required. Totally up to you. The only thing that we say is where there are locations where they are not at the minimum required, they do need to come up to keep the full replacement cost coverage. If you don't want to go to the full replacement cost coverage, then we just move that location to stated value. And the difference between full replacement cost and stated value is really relevant when or if that location is completely destroyed and we need to rebuild it. With stated value coverage, you get replacement costs up to the limit associated with that property. With full replacement cost, you get replacement costs up to the blanket limit once those structures are rebuilt. Does that make sense? Okay.
Mhm.
Channeling my inner claims person to make sure that makes sense. And it always makes sense to me, but sometimes I talk fast. So take a look at those things. You've got a few properties that they did find that weren't currently covered. So up to this point, we would have offered what's called miscellaneous unscheduled locations coverage. So if there was a loss to one of those locations, we just say, hey, it's not on the schedule. If you want to cover it, we know there's a claim out here. If you want to cover it, we just need to add it and then we'll take care of the claim, but you have to be intentional about it, right? So now we've identified some unscheduled locations. So now we just ask you to be intentional about what you want to do with those. Either we cover it or we don't. That's kind of up to you. You've got quotes up there to add some of those items and stuff like that. I think just 4 items were out there, so.
Do you have a recommendation for us for coverage amounts?
Yep, so in that spreadsheet, the minimum requireds are on there. Of course, we're gonna say that's the minimum. You have to go at least to that. Like I said, I would be hesitant to have you come all the way back down to 20 on the public safety center just because of what we've seen with COVID. And I would hate for something to happen. And that's going to be in an area where maybe you have other locations that are also around you. And if we just don't want to ever have you not have enough coverage, right? So like if you look at the blanket limit, so right now your blanket limit is $42.7 million. So if all of the locations on your statement of values are completely destroyed, that's the most you would get back for replacement cost coverage. If you moved everything to the minimum required, you'd actually bring your blanket limit down to 34 million. And so that's a pretty big difference. That's about $8 million difference. So really we look at like worst case scenario, right? Like if this whole community is destroyed and we'd have to pick up a couple in Irene and Lesterville. So we'd have to really get out there. But the bulk of it really is like your public safety center. You've got a decent sized highway shop building and then this building. So those 3 alone really, I mean, if those 3 very centrally located here right around Yankton, if something catastrophic happens here, we just want to make sure that you guys have enough coverage. So I am happy to, like I said, this is not something that needs to be decided on. If you want, I mean, I can come down and sit with Patty and we can talk through it, maybe run some more quotes. If you're like, oh, what if we massage some of these other numbers a little bit? Happy to do all of that.
Yeah, I think that might be something to look at because, you know, the likelihood of, you know, the safety center, this building, the highway shop, all getting hit at once. I mean, that's why it's insured, but it probably doesn't have to be.
Yeah, but I think some buildings are more important, safety center,
Yeah.
government center. I think some of those are just a little bit more important. So some of those might be on a high priority list
Yeah,
versus others.
exactly. Exactly. I'd agree with that. And it doesn't hurt any to just review these from time to time. So.
Absolutely. The question I have is the three, if you notice on this spreadsheet, the three items that are noted in green are all generators.
Yes. So right now, we do not cover the generators. Well, we would pick it up again under that unscheduled coverage. If there was something were to happen to it, say it gets struck by lightning or something like that, it's more beneficial for you to carve that out and make your generator a separate location than to try to roll it into like the building that it is associated with. So like your public safety center generator, instead of rolling it up into the safety center building, it makes sense for you to keep it separate because it's a little bit cheaper of a rate on that value. So on the $230,000, it's a cheaper rate because it's covered as outdoor property instead of the rate associated with the public safety center.
So on the spreadsheet that you've provided to us, you're saying that it's not currently covered. But if we want it covered, it's going to be the $201 fee because it's going to be a separate
Yeah. Yep.
building or
Right.
whatever. you
It'll
wanna
be its
call it.
own location. Yep. So to add that, it'll be the $201.
Okay.
If
Or
Or
we
you
can leave
can
it off.
exclude it. Yep, we can exclude it. And then if something happens to it, then there just wouldn't be coverage under the pool for it.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
If something happened today, we would say, okay, do you want it covered? And we would expect you to keep it on for at least a couple renewal cycles, not like take it
Sure,
off at the end of the
sure.
term. But we'd ask you to be intentional and then we'd either cover the claim or we would exclude it. We've had quite a few situations like that where it's in between property surveys and stuff like that. It's like, oh, well, we have this building and now it's got hail damage. Okay, well, let's be intentional about it now. Do you want it covered? Yes, great. We get it added. If there's any contribution due, we take care of that. And then claims will take care of the claim.
And included in this quote, though, the new property in Irene is included in this, I'm assuming.
We've got
The
one
high-
property in Irene.
The highway shop.
I just have a
Two.
highway shop.
Oh, there's only one.
Do you have another property in Irene?
No, we
We
bought one and we
replaced.
got rid of one.
Okay, so I have one highway shop on Till Avenue in Irene.
They're both on Till Avenue. But the
Just a
value
minute,
is
we have the highway
97,000.
superintendent here. He can look it up.
I'm assuming that because of the value that it is the new property,
Okay,
but we want to verify that
Yeah.
before we.
and with that, I mean, we would just, if something came up and if we know you have a highway shop, if we figure out that we still have the old address, but you have a new, we're gonna fix that.
Yep.
We're not gonna say, oh, nope, wrong address.
Yep.
No, we're gonna make sure we get that updated and stuff like that. So, yep,
Our
that is,
memorial is valued at $352,796. Seems
so which one?
our courthouse memorial that would be this one out here.
Oh, sure.
That kind of seems a bit.
So that memorial you have, right now it's on your schedule for 328. Yeah, and 352 is the replacement cost based on, actually, that's probably just the trended value of what we had gotten from you. If you want, what we can do is we can actually change that and say, you guys say, you know what? We're pretty confident nothing's really ever going to happen to that. Maybe you just want to cover it at a lower stated value limit, like just in case something happens, say there's, some vandalism or something, or a tornado, and you just need to repair it. So say you want to go to like $100,000 stated value limit. That way it gives you some coverage on that memorial. It may not fully replace that memorial, but it might take care of some of them smaller claims in between the time.
I would think that would be appropriate because the worst thing that would probably happen is, wind would damage some of the flags,
Sure.
the old courthouse. There's not much left of it. I don't see that being, but that'd be something I think we should maybe look at. And
Yeah.
Could that be since it's on the same property as this building, could that be like fall under the coverage for the?
So
Instead of
it-
being its own,
It does need to be its own line item, but like I said, we can change that and we can make it a stated value, because then you can have whatever limit you want.
sure,
You'd still get replacement costs. So if something's damaged, but your limit, the most that we would pay just becomes whatever
I
that
think
stated
that would-
value. And that will save you some funds too. That'll save you some money because it's stated value. So we know we're limiting the exposure on it. So yeah, no, we can, and I can,
Yeah.
get some quotes on
yeah,
that.
I would look at that one and then, yeah, that county extension office, I guess I don't foresee that being the $751,000, that's just an old metal building. It's getting up there. I don't think that value seems high to me. What do you,
Sure.
750,000 for that building?
I guess I would, if we're gonna get together and reevaluate some of the other items.
Yeah.
Let's look at that too, because if a tornado comes through and it damages the front of that facility, you probably can't even replace it. I mean,
Yeah.
Sure.
so, yeah, so we're gonna wanna take a look at that.
Okay. Yeah,
Sounds
we
good.
can, we can maybe just work through Patty and get a couple of you or one of you or
Yeah.
however you want to
That's good.
do it. And then I might even drag an underwriter down so we can just do some live quoting. They can.
That
pull
would
their
be
laptop
perfect.
in. Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, let's do that. Because then we can really massage and you can see what it does to your overall contribution numbers. We can talk about like, okay, if we do this with this building, this is what it coverage wise means. This is what it does to your blanket limit and stuff like that. So then you can, it's kind of, okay, now I'm a nerd. It's kind of fun to see like, what the different changes do to different coverage types, what your claims exposure is, what it does to the dollars and cents, the bottom line and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll just work through Patty. We'll get everybody's calendars together and we'll come down maybe on a day when it's not.
When it's 60 degrees instead of 0.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, so
Sounds.
we
good.
will do that. And then we wanted to talk about some liability, couple
Yes.
liability questions.
Liability for employees in a facility that is a single employee or potentially a single employee in a building that is owned by us, basically off-site, and that employee is there individually all day long. Actually,
Or not owned by us.
or not owned by us, but in that facility.
Sure,
But the facility is insured by us.
okay. So injury or incident to that particular employee. So if they slip and fall, if anything that happens to them, that's the workers' compensation. And I think I've referred some questions over to Brad Wilson under the work comp. There's going to be some questions about course and scope of employment and things like that as far as injury to that person, right? As far as liability, so if we have people going to see this person, so say we have Patty and she's over at the bank instead of here, like we've put her office over there and we've got people going to see Patty. A lot of that is going to depend if you don't own the building or if there is, if you own the building, then the third party liability, the slip and falls, things like that, that's going to come back to us because you own the building and there's an expectation of maintenance and things like that for people coming to that location. As far as if somebody else owns the building, we're going to rely a lot on what any lease agreements, facilities use agreements, or memorandum of understanding says about who's responsible for maintenance, or if you are responsible for liability at a certain point. It may be that your liability starts and stops at the office door. It may be that they have built in, nope, you are going to be responsible for common areas, so hallways, parking lots, things like that. If you are contractually obligated to be responsible for third-party liability claims, then that it rolls in. It's picked up by our coverage because you have that obligation. So we'll respond to those claims made against the county. As far as a safe, or a perceived safe environment for our employees, I messaged Employment Law Council, and right now there's no standards as far as here's the guidelines for what is considered safe or not safe. So that I really don't have any. I mean, if you've got an employee says it's not safe to work here, I mean, there's going to need to be some feedback about why, obviously. It may play into if they are injured in a workers' compensation claim and stuff like that. That I don't know. I'm not going to speak too much to that because that's not my jam. It's not my area. And I would ask that you talk to Brad about those kinds of things. And like I said, maybe Brian, did
Emailed you, yes.
yeah, and then did you have some follow-up with Brad?
He sent that one message. It kind of pretty much answered my question.
Okay,
It
yeah.
was-
So between the two, I think we are taking care of the potential injury or harm to your employee through Brad, and then third-party liability claims, depending on what your agreements are and stuff like that. Somebody is going to respond because if you send the building back to extension, then the state should, or you should ask for some sort of agreements. Put it in writing. Okay, what's expected of us? So then we know if there is a claim, okay, well, we knew what was expected and it's a lot easier to get rolling after that.
Thank you.
Perfect. Anything else?
Not at this point in time.
You are welcome to call me anytime that you need me. Patty, I will send you some info about calendars and I'll get with, I think it'll be Christina that will probably drag down with us just so that she can put in and it, otherwise I have to email her. She's the numbers gal. I just get to hang out with you
Okay.
guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item, abatements.
Or what your microphone's not on.
The one is for a veteran,
Would that,
and I really can't say anything about it. 'cause it's
Yeah,
a veteran.
We have two of them. So the first one, these people had bought a condo in Sioux Falls. They moved to Sioux Falls. They applied to change that property in Sioux Falls in Minnehaha to owner occupied. Minnehaha contacted us, which said, okay, well, we'll take it off owner occupied. Then in the process after that, somehow Minnehaha denied them owner occupied status. We continued on. It's already taken off owner occupied, sent out the assessment notice on March 1st of last year. They did not respond within the first 15 days. And they only came up when they saw their property tax bill and that they realized it. You know, the usual story of not looking at your assessment and not looking at it until you see the bill. So,
do you have a?
So do they live
So,
in
do you
Sioux
have a
Falls?
recommendation?
my opinion is that we should deny that abatement. Really, when I looked at the Minnehaha documents, they denied it because they had owner occupied in Yankton, which was not true. So if anyone had made a mistake, it's the Minnehaha County in this situation, and they should be taking the abatement.
We'll follow your recommendation.
Do they live in Sioux Falls though?
I think they do. So I just wonder, as I understand,
But they still own the property.
they still own the property here. They did not sell the property here.
And you can only have owner occupied in
Only
one
one.
place, yep.
Yep.
Obviously, I would think that would be the case.
So do they rent it out, do you know?
I'm not,
I don't know what they're doing with it, but
I'm not sure, but I think they do live here part of the time.
What?
yeah, but you have to claim one residence as an owner occupied. You can't have two, even if you are only, even if you live here like 6 months out of the year and 6 months out of the year in Sioux Falls. Well, one has to be your owner occupied property.
Why wouldn't Sioux Falls want to approve that?
Because it reduces their tax income off that property.
So could I get a motion on that?
I move that we deny the first abatement for Williamson.
Second.
I have a motion by Ryan, second by Wanda to deny the first abatement for
Williamson.
Williamson. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Now the second one, I recall all the facts on this one. This is a scenario where essentially the VA was backlogged on paperwork. So the paperwork was got received and then processed between that time, the date expired on it. So they got it in time, but it didn't get processed in time for this VA abatement.
It came here in time or it came to the VA?
Yeah, through the VA. So,
What's your recommendation, Ryan?
you know, this one here is kind of where they really were doing everything, trying to do everything right. So my recommendation is to approve it.
I'd make the motion to approve, per Ryan's recommendation.
Second,
I have a motion by Dan, second by Ryan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thanks for explaining that for us.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ryan. Moving on. Highway bid openings. Mike?
Last Tuesday, we had our annual supply bid opening. You guys have any questions on it?
No, just to clarify, we are burning the tax-free fuel.
Yep,
Okay, it just wasn't, reading this, I guess it wasn't clear, but we're already doing that, so.
yep. I think bids come in pretty reasonable this year. We had a few go up, but the big ones that I thought were gonna hurt, they stayed the same or went down.
Do you need us to approve the specific
Um,
fuel or what do you want to do here?
Approve the recommendation.
You
For
could
the
just
20
remove or approve all of them.
as a group?
Yeah, just like we always have,
You're right, as requested.
as presented.
Yeah, because there are bids that not approving, so
Yeah,
So
and you
it could
can
be
do
that-
that and then
the approval list.
approve.
Okay. Any motion on the bids that have been approved by our highway superintendent? Can I get a motion to approve those?
I would move to approve the bids that are on the list of the highway superintendent's approved numbers.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Wanda. I have a second by Don to approve the bids that are approved by the highway superintendent on his list. Any further discussion? Hearing, seeing none. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Then tomorrow we got bid opening up in Sioux Falls for our microsurfacing, so
For a what?
microsurfacing. So next meeting I'll have that to present, so.
Okay. Thanks,
you.
Mike. Thanks for doing all the due diligence on that.
Mike.
Rezone, Dave Bingo. Welcome.
Thank you, commissioners, Mr. Chairman, thanks for having me here this evening. We only do this sort of request in the ETJ about once every 3 or 4 years, so I feel about half of my 2-minute talk is about why we do this, and then the other half is actually about the issue, and I can sure do that if you want a slight refresher. When the ordinance was adopted 24 years ago, 25 years ago, the county commission at the time unilaterally granted control of zoning jurisdiction in an area surrounding the city. It's a varying dimension, but surrounding the city that we call the extraterritorial jurisdiction. Part of that approval, though, was with the caveat that any ordinance amendment would come back to the county commission. The intent of that part of the code was that if there was some amendment to the ordinance itself, some important language in the ordinance that the county might feel strongly about, that there'd be more involvement in that part of the discussion from the county's perspective. What happens, though, as you know, with the rezoning is that actually is defined as an ordinance amendment also. So it gets kind of drug along with that process. So it's already been to the City Planning Commission with 2 ETJ members sitting. This request has sitting and voting, and that was a unanimous recommendation for approval. What we have is a request from Steve and Lori Drossman for a rezoning northwest of the city of Yankton within the ETJ. It's just west of Aurora Street, north of West 31st Street / Highway 50. And it's a request to go from an ag zoning to an R2 zoning. R2 is the city's higher density, single family residential zoning. That's what the area is planned for in the city's long-term comprehensive development plan. So from that perspective, it's, you know, it meets all of those criteria. If there were any substantial subdivision that would create a residential, I guess an urban residential type of development like you see in the middle of town, the corporate limits would end up being extended before that would happen, and that's when the smaller lots would actually be created. Right now, they'd still be restricted by the state requirements regarding on-site sanitary sewer and things like that. So
Dave, are you thinking like 20,000 square foot lots, or what is your?
so actually their request, which as you know, is we're supposed to look at what all could happen when an amendment is made. Their request is just to put one more home on the site,
Oh,
and they
okay.
just, for their son.
Sure.
That's, you know, that's the genesis of the request. But when you make the request to R2, you know, planner brains have to go through this whole process of trying to, you know, what's worst case scenario build out or best case scenario build out, and what all would that impact? So, staff recommended approval. Planning Commission, City Planning Commission with ETJ members recommended approval at a public hearing. Then we're here tonight, and if you approve and this agenda item, which doesn't have to be a hearing, it's just an agenda item, then it goes to the City Commission for another hearing. So 3-step process.
I guess I'd move to approve the rezone.
Second.
A motion by Wanda, second by Ryan to approve the rezone.
This isn't a hearing. We don't need public comment, correct? Or should we ask for public comment just to be safe and?
Any public comment on this issue, this rezone? Hearing none, seeing none. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Have a great evening.
Thank you, Dave.
You too.
Thanks, Dave. Next item. Plats.
Good evening. We have 3 plats tonight. First one being a replat of lots 13C and 14A. Zones addition in the southeast quarter of the northwest quarter of section 15, township 93 north, range 56 west of the 5th principal meridian, Yankton County, South Dakota. Hereafter to be known as lots 13D and 14B, Thones addition in the southeast quarter of the northwest quarter of section 15, township 93 north, range 56 west of the 5th principal meridian, Yankton County, South Dakota. As you can see, 13D is just adding 53 feet. That 14B would be selling to them.
Move approval.
Second.
Got a motion by Dan, second by Ryan to approve the LaCroix plat. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Next one's the ETJ, and this is just a formality with the city. Plat of lots 1, 1A, 2, 3, 3A, and 4, JTC addition in the northeast quarter of section 2, township 93 north, range 56 west of the 5th principal meridian, Yankton County, South Dakota.
Move
And-
approval.
This
Second.
got a motion by Wanda, second by Don. This is that little triangle piece on West City Limits Road and Highway 50.
Yeah, there's access, they'll have access right off west
What's
city
that,
limits.
Sure, what is that?
I believe it's storage facility, so.
They're
Oh.
doing those man cave type
Oh,
places.
okay. So they're planning on building a single building and lot lines going right through the buildings. Okay.
I believe that's the case. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Last one's a replat of tract 1 Becker's addition in the northeast quarter of section 9, Township 95 North, Range 56 West of the 5th Principal Meridian, Yankton County, South Dakota, hereafter to be known as Track 2 Becker's Edition in the northeast quarter of Section 9, Township 95 North, Range 56 West of the 5th Principal Meridian, Yankton County, South Dakota. They're basically plotting out the building site and the rest is going back to the quarter.
Move approval.
Second.
Got a motion by Dan, second by Ryan. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Just a, comment on that. I mean, that's what we're seeing that happening a lot is the selling the farmstead separate from the farm ground. And, unfortunately, like, if our lot sizes was a little bit smaller, this could have been done sooner. And we always approve these. So, maybe that's something we need to look at as making these things smaller
Well,
for a little bit.
This one has that exception because it's an original homestead, so
Yeah.
it has an exception. So
This
it
what?
can't be- It's a homestead, so it's
Yeah.
a very old home. So it gets the exception to have a smaller lot size.
Yeah.
Okay, next item, hiring freeze, mission discussion. And
You want to take it or do you want me to?
Go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Don. Well, Don and I got together, over the last couple days, just kind of looking at, the budget and our cash situation and, reserves and, ARPA dollars and the federal dollars from COVID. They've kind of moved through the county now. And unfortunately, what we all realize is costs have significantly increased, but our intake of funds from taxes has remained relatively stable. We look at from years past, we've seen, double digit or triple digit on trucks and machinery and on fuel, and personnel wages have continued to gone up. Don and I have a little more work yet to do, but, we can certainly see that the counties are going to be struggling in the future. I'll hand one of these out. I think Ryan and I mentioned last time, 30 property tax bills going through right now. Senate Bill 216A is the governor's proposal. And if we look at this, it is going to significantly affect property taxes until the year 3031 right now. And Don, you chime in here anytime if you want to, but we got to be prepared because in years past, we were getting a tiny bit of help from the state. I think those days are done, fellas. What we're looking at is we have to start planning now on what we're going to do to hold the line. And if we wait another year, another 2 years, I think we're gonna be in a lot bigger trouble. Did I miss anything, Don, or?
No. We've met a couple times and started our process of deciding what we want to look at and who we want to talk to, and we came up with an initial action plan that we're probably not ready to finalize yet, but action plan, and then we're gonna do a pretty close analysis of the data on 2024 and maybe look back a little bit into 2023 to see the flow of funds through the county. But I totally concur with what Dan says, that we're likely to get limited assistance in forms of grants or programs from the state, probably from the federal too. And we're gonna have to eliminate some spending, quite likely.
I guess our proposal that I mentioned that Don and I had was to hiring freeze, but that doesn't mean if a department head doesn't really need a position, they can't come in front of us and justify it. And we could certainly approve that, but this is more of our due diligence, just to tighten up and I guess take our medicine now, because if we don't, we could be in a much worse position a year or two down the road. So I guess that if you guys have any questions of us, let us know.
And I think I guess there's certainly a number of counties
Mhm.
around the state that are already in that
Yes,
position where
Yeah.
they're in severe trouble, and we don't want to get there.
Yeah, and I understand. The only concern I have is what's the end game here with the hiring freeze, you know? Where do you unfreeze it? You know,
Mhm.
when you're running a business, you may
Mhm.
have to see a revenue decline and you see some troubled waters ahead, you can do a hiring freeze, knowing that your revenues are going to suddenly pop out again, possibly.
What our plan is, Ryan, is to get together and thoroughly understand how the expenses and the income pass through the county in 2024, and then use that data to examine the 2025 budget and see what, if anything, we have to adjust.
Hmm.
And we plan to do that not with Dan and I, but with the whole
Yep.
commission.
So, okay, so if we do a hiring freeze, then we would be, say, any open positions, we would not be hiring anyone. New vacancies, we wouldn't be hiring anyone.
I would propose if, say, for example, we have a sheriff deputy that resigns and that one really needs to be hired, I would expect that they would come in and they would justify the position to us and we'd approve it. Because as it is right now, if there's an opening, that department head can just hire that person if it's budgeted for. And there will be some of that. We realize that. But I think this gives an opportunity for us to just to be cautious about moving forward on adding new expenses.
Do you think that if we do this hiring freeze and we possibly make the course adjustments, that some of these positions that become open or are open are just eliminated? Would we just eliminate the positions?
We might have to do that. I mean, reading through this Senate Bill 216, they're talking about right now we can do 3% or CPI, whatever's less. This is talking about going down to 2%. And if we into our budget, I mean, you've been through enough budgets. If we start losing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on what we take in, we won't have a choice.
Mhm.
And I almost look at maybe we hire freeze now and maybe that'll stop a layoff in a year. We don't know what's going to happen, but this is best case scenario. This was written before further projections came out from the state, which state revenue is even lower now than when this was written. And I think we need to expect hard times ahead and yeah, I guess if somebody has a better suggestion, I don't know what that would be.
And part of
Yeah.
the action steps that we've identified that we yet want to approve with the commission before we move on them calls for us meeting with department heads. So we want to spend the time letting them know that what the definition of a freeze is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Let them know what the situation is. We don't want to, we're not out to scare the hell out of everybody. We're out to adequately inform people so they understand where we're at.
Do we know how many open positions we have now that
None.
we're hiring from?
Yeah,
None?
I don't believe there's any
Okay.
right now. And is there one?
Maybe.
Apparently, there's one in the sheriff's office
Okay.
because somebody
Sure.
retired Friday.
Sure.
And I think
And yeah,
sheriff's also has unused positions too.
Yeah,
And,
Yeah.
and that's fine. At this point in time, if they're unused right now, I feel
they're
that
gonna continue
They-
to stay unused.
I feel that if the sheriff decides because of some reason that the jail needs another jailer and there's an unused position there, he should come to us and say, we got an additional 4 inmates coming in, so we need to bring in another jailer, okay, then that's up to us to decide if we want to make that move to hire another jailer.
Yeah.
But at this point in time, even if they're open positions, I think we should freeze that hiring.
Yeah.
My opinion.
Two places to get money, out of the county, is highways and employees.
Hmm.
We certainly don't want to take it out of the employees, nor the highways.
Yeah.
But that's what we're trying to address, to get it cut down to where we reasonably can make it flow.
All right, I think I played my devil's advocate.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the procedure, if there's a position that comes open, it's really needed to have to justify it, which in all cases probably likely would be, and then we can move on instead of the procedure now, which is just to hire that person. So, any other questions? Did I cover that, Don, with what we
I think
discussed?
so.
Do we need a motion
Yeah.
to approve a hiring freeze at this point in time?
Yeah, I guess I would,
Move.
I'd second Don's
I
motion.
have a motion by Don, second by Dan to implement the hiring freeze as stated this evening. That if there's a position that our department heads feel needed, they need to come to us and get approval from us to hire, to make an additional hire, but any open positions that are budgeted or however you want to call it right now, there will be no additions to that. Perfectly understood.
And when you say no additions to that, if they're budgeted but not hired, they're not going to be hired,
Open positions, yes.
but not filled.
Correct.
Okay.
Without approval by us.
Yep.
I get that, but I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yes. Okay, we have a motion by Don, second by Dan. Any further discussion?
Yeah, for further discussion, as it's not something that we want to do. I feel we're being pushed into this position. I mean, remember just a few years ago, the state had so much money, they reduced sales tax from 4.5 to 4.2%. And now guess what? The state can't cover its obligations. So cutting VSOs, cutting veteran benefits, cutting things coming to the county. We don't get any sales tax, but so many things are being pushed on us. I see this only getting much worse. Tomorrow, the County Commissioner Association at 1:00 is going to kind of review this SB 216. You guys should all have a link to that. I'd recommend you listen to it. And I would imagine this is only going to get more difficult for counties in the future. And like Don said, no federal money coming, no state money. We're going to have to figure this out on our own. So.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. I just at this point, I just want to add a little bit to this, and I'm not saying that we need to, this is open to move forward. But I asked Patty to give me the last 5 years of end of year general fund balance, and 2019, we were at $4.6 million was the general funds balance. 2020, when we were at $4.9 million in the general fund. And now these are just numbers, because if I say 4.9, there is a recommendation that the state gives to us that we need to keep a balance in our checking account. So it's not that it's extra money out there, trust me. But then COVID kicked in, and then all of a sudden our general fund balance was 9.3 million. And these are all December 31 numbers. 2022, 10 million, 23, 8.6 million, and 24, when there was no COVID funds available to us, we're still at 5.6. So it's not that Yankton County is one of the 16 counties that are looking at possibly bankruptcy, but we do need to tighten up our purse strings and make sure that that balance does not fall any lower than where we're at right now. So,
And I can't stress enough, but that work has to be done in budget.
correct.
If we
That's
don't
correct.
do our budget, if we don't have realistic budgets, if we cut our budget too much, unrealistic cuts to our budget are only gonna hurt us. We have to be realistic to our budget. We have to really assess the risk. And it's gonna be challenging because we gotta stay within that 3% and
Well,
hopefully not
possibly too
3%.
well.
Yes,
Exactly.
which is
Yeah,
not good.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
budget work,
Yeah.
this year should be our highest priority.
It's gonna be difficult. We may start earlier.
That's part of
Yeah.
the information that we're
And,
looking at.
and that's kind of what
Yeah.
Dan and Don are looking at also for us. So,
And, you know, to Ryan's point, you know, we might get a 2% increase, but, what are vehicles gonna be? You know, what does a road grader cost? What is medication cost to the jail? All those things. I wish somebody would sign a law that says county bills can only increase by 2%, but that doesn't happen.
yep, that's exactly right.
And then to your point that you had that the ARPA funds, I think we had just give credit to you and Wanda and Ryan and Don and all those. I think they were spent very responsibly. We really upgraded a lot of our roads and infrastructure and bridge. Mike and his team did a great job spending that. So it was an investment in the county. It was one-time money that I believe we put to good use, responsible use, but it's gone now. The Christmas money is gone and we have got a tough road ahead. So. Yeah. A lot of that went into upgrading that needed to be done for a long time. So.
Okay. Ryan or commission
Yeah.
IT
Did
position.
we vote on it? Or did we?
We did
Okay.
vote on that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Hiring
Yes,
freeze?
we did.
Okay.
Pass.
Yeah, so the IT position, so it's been noted many times through the year, and I really didn't want to do anything on an IT position unless it was in the budget. You know, the worst thing we can do is spend outside of our budget. That's what drops our general fund. And so we have the budget in for an IT position. Of course, we just enacted a freeze conveniently. But I would like to formalize this. But you know, I think Dan, you've mentioned this too. Maybe we should do an RFP for contracting this out. The one concern about contracting it out is whether we're going to get timely service, and that's a big issue for the IT position, especially for sheriff's office, emergency services and things like that. So, I guess we might just push this on to the next meeting. It'll give me a chance maybe to meet with Gary. We'll talk over some options and we'll bring them forward, whether it's a contract request or a proposal or to a hiring position. So
Okay.
And postpone this item.
postpone it.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
appreciate Ryan's work on that. I mean, it's what, Tyler, what would we need? Would we need, how would we need it to say if we were looking at an RFP or something like that for like a contract? What would you recommend? RFP for IT or higher position, or how would you want us to word that? Because they are kind of different, I suppose, so. Okay.
Well, hopefully by the
I think-
next meeting, we'll have something more of a recommendation.
I think Ryan and Gary and Tyler get together and
Yeah,
decide how you want to handle that.
okay.
Okay? Okay,
I'd move to approve the February 4, 2025 minutes.
Second.
got a motion by Wanda, second by Don to approve the February 4, 2025 minutes. Any discussion? None? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Yeah.
Postpone.
Yes, we have to vote.
Postpone.
Do we have to motion that?
Motion.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to motion it.
I'll make a motion to postpone the IT discussion to the next meeting.
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Dan, second by Ryan to postpone the IT position discussion till next meeting,
Is that March 4?
March 4th. Okay. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, claims approved AAA. Oh, no, we got to need a motion to approve. I got a motion by Wanda, second by Don to approve the February 4th meeting minutes. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
I'd move to approve claims.
Second.
Got a motion by Wanda, second by Dan to approve claims. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Approve the AAA collections.
But you never. made
You're
any
not on,
motions.
your mic's not on. I know you hate it.
Is that to renew the contract with them?
No, you never made any motions. There was no action taken.
Okay,
To approve,
Because I think you wanted the state's attorney to look at the agreement.
okay.
and I believe that was done and signed. So,
No, it wasn't signed.
okay, was
Nothing-
not signed.
nothing
So
was
this
done.
is the actual final approval.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Was there anything of concern in there?
You know,
Okay, so I can have a motion to approve the AAA collections contract.
I'd
For
move,
1 year.
I'd move to approve the AAA collections contract for 1 year.
Second.
I have a motion by Wanda, second by Ryan to approve the AAA collections contract for 1 year. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. January 2025 Auditor Treasurer's Report
Move
Full cash.
and pooled cash.
approval.
Second.
A motion by Dan, second by Ryan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Public comment. Now is the time for public comment. Are there any one that wants to speak on public comment? Seeing none, public comment.
Oh, Mr.
Oh,
Wexler.
Tom raised his hand. Come on up, Tom.
on up.
All on, ready.
Seen Tom come in, but I didn't see his hand raised up.
Members of the County Commission. My name is Thomas Bixler and I am here because I like commission meetings, of course, but I'm here to gain signatures for my petition for the City Commission of Yankton, which is for those of you who don't know, it's nonpartisan, so if any of you in this group wish to sign it, I have them with me. If you do not, I understand, and I will be here until 7:45 or until the meeting is finished. If any of you wish to sign it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
I can't sign. I don't live in the city, so sorry, Tom.
I don't think Don or I do either.
I think it's just John.
Just
so
John's the
one,
only
so-
one that lives in this.
Yeah, or Ryan, yeah. I'd move to go into executive session to discuss
Are
personnel
we gonna do
issues.
updates?
What?
Commission
And if anyone else to speak on public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Commissioner updates.
I just had a few things, again, up in Pier listening, to some of the bills. I went and testified on Senate Bill, 99, which was an appropriations of $180,000 for the state to provide the SANE kits, also known as, rape kits. And it was, the state was against providing that. So that's an idea of how difficult funding is that our state doesn't want to pay for rape kits, right now. It is very difficult up there. Also, some of the bills that I don't think are the best, there's a House Bill 1238, that would allow basically claim sharks to do, uh, claims for veterans. And some of these guys charge 40, 50, 60% of the benefits that a veteran receives, they take away. So they're the payday lenders of the veteran world. Is,
Who's sponsoring that?
I believe it's a representative on the, I want to say it's Goodwin. And they're saying it's a choice for the veterans. The veterans can choose these services, but I don't think people realize that they'll be taking an absolute huge chunk of the veterans' paycheck, sometimes for years. So again, it's the payday lenders of the system. And what my fear is, this bill passes and these guys come into the community and they have huge budgets to advertise. And instead of going and seeing Rob, who does it because he cares about the vet, these guys are all about the money. And once they get that claim, they're done with those guys. And so it's pretty concerning. So that's all I have. Motion.
Nothing.
I don't have anything.
Morning.
Keep it quick tonight.
I have nothing.
Motion for executive session.
Second.
Have a motion by Dan, second by Ryan to go into executive session.
Aye.
All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
He's got a lot going on. He's signing stuff.
Sorry. But they put it in the newspaper that they're going to have a work session from 5 to 6. Yeah. I'd move to go back on the record following executive session.
Second.
Got a motion by Wanda, second by Don to move back into general session.
What is that annoying humming noise?
We are getting a buzz to the speaker.
It sounds like it's coming from here. Anyway,
So anyway,
No action.
no action in executive session, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
second.
Got a motion by Dan, second by Wanda to adjourn. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Sell these, right?